was asked to do a film with Marcel, and I said yes, 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 without reading a script, because I knew that with him...
I hate them. Not because they are bad, but because they dared to touch my final limit. Sophia Loren. At the age of 80, when no longer standing under the spotlight, no longer needing to beautify herself for the camera, Sophia Loren finally began to speak out about things she had swallowed throughout her life. One person once forced her to exchange roles for her body right in the dressing room, and when she refused, he mercilessly cut her role. Another person aired a close-up of her chest on national television, then smirked, saying, "She became famous thanks to this, not because of her acting." If you were Sophia Loren, would you remain silent, forgive, or hate them so much that you carry that anger with you for the rest of your life? Before we find out who was the first person to make Sophia Loren hate them so much that she would never mention them again, let's take a look at who she is and why no one has the right to touch her ever again. Because the most shocking secrets behind Hollywood scenes are often hidden where no one expects, hit subscribe now to join us in uncovering the stories that have never been told.
Was going to be all right. His way of improvising.
Sophia Loren, her real name was Sophia Villani Ciccalone, was born on September 20, 1934, in Rome, Italy. Her mother, a failed former actress, once said, "My daughter will live the life I couldn't." And from those words, a fire ignited, in a thin little girl, living cramped in a small room in Naples, amidst the sounds of bombs, hunger, and the humiliation of being abandoned by her father. No one thought that little girl would become the first Italian woman to win an Oscar. But Sophia never waited for others to believe in her. At the age of 15, she entered a beauty contest, wearing a patched-up dress, with a face that hadn't been touched by makeup, and though she didn't win, she caught the eye of a director, who later became her husband, Carlo Ponti. He was the one who laid the first stone for her journey from Naples to the cinematic capital, and from there, the journey of an icon began. Sophia didn't step into Hollywood with a smile. She entered with blood, tears, and an uncompromising refusal. Sleep with someone to get a role? She scoffed, tearing the script apart and walking away without looking back. She lost roles simply for refusing to sleep with anyone and for not turning into a obedient doll. She was once called a walking body, a beauty without dialogue by the press. But instead of bowing her head, Sophia Loren swallowed it all. Then she returned with eyes full of fire in every frame, with performances that made the entire world silent. She didn't climb to the top through tricks, but through endurance. She didn't win through scandals, but through truths that made all of Hollywood stand still. Her role in Two Women, 1960, won her the Best Actress Oscar, becoming the first woman to win the award with a role that didn't speak English. From Naples to Cannes, from Italian black and white films to the prestigious Golden Statuette, Sophia Loren became an irreplaceable icon, with more than 90 films, 5 Golden Globes, the French César, and an Academy Award for Lifetime Achievement awarded by Meryl Streep. But the greatest achievement? She survived in a man's world, and still held on to her woman's heart. And that's why, once she hates someone, she hates them to the core. Because they not only insulted her, but trampled on every drop of blood she shed to survive. She had remained silent before so much bitterness, but there are 5 names, and just mentioning them, her eyes immediately darken, turning into a cold, chilling cut. And the first person is the one who made her understand. Sometimes, the most despised person shares the same nationality, the same language, and the same beauty. Gina Lollobrigida. If I were a queen, she would be a village girl, 2 of the most beautiful women in Italy. A stage too small for 2 such towering figures. And a Cold War that lasted over half a century, no blood, but enough to destroy any chance of ever standing in the same frame. Gina Lollobrigida once viewed Sophia Loren as a thorn in her side. Not only did she mock her behind her back, but she also openly declared on national television, she's only suited to play the role of a prostitute. As for noble roles, she's not of the right caliber. Sophia didn't respond with words. She responded with an Oscar. With over 90 roles and names from Hollywood lining up to work with her. In an interview, Sophia coldly stated, "I don't know Gina. And I don't need to. No grudges, but severed like a razor blade. For 50 years, there were no handshakes, no shared dinners, not a single photo taken together." Sophia Loren erased Gina from her entire life, like pulling out a splinter, then closing up the wound without leaving a scar. If a person from her own country could be hated to the core, then the next person, the one who dared lay hands on her body and thought it was a privilege, truly made her despise him to the bone. Marlon Brando, the only man who made me want to slap him in the face on set, the only man who made me want to slap him right across the face on set. That's the line Sophia Loren left in her memoirs. And the name she mentioned was none other than Marlon Brando. It wasn't a glance. It wasn't a suggestive word. It was a naked, vile act, right in the middle of the A Countess from Hong Kong, 1967, set, under the glare of cameras, in front of dozens of eyes from the crew. Brando, Hollywood's manly icon, reached his hand into Sophia Loren's chest, unprompted, without consent. A purposeful, dominant, perverse touch, but he chose the wrong person. Sophia didn't scream. She didn't cry. She turned around, looked him straight in the eye, and growled each word like a razor blade. "Never touch me again. I'm not some object for you to play with," and then continue acting like nothing happened. The whole set was stunned. But Brando just sneered. Not a word of apology. Not an ounce of shame. To him, it was a joke. To Sophia, it was the most humiliating moment of her career. She didn't say another word. But from that moment on, every scene they shared became a silent battlefield. No one touched anyone. No gaze, no intimate lines, were genuine. In her memoir, she referred to that moment as, "the instant I realized how filthy power can be." And she concluded with one final sentence, "I despise him." If a man, glorified by the world, dared to lay his dirty hands on Sophia Loren, then the third person, the one who turned her into a laughingstock before millions of viewers, will make you even angrier than the first two. Jayne Mansfield, she made me a laughingstock before the whole world. Hollywood, 1957. A grand party was thrown to welcome Sophia Loren, the new queen of Italian cinema, who had just signed a contract with Paramount. She was invited to sit at the center. That was, until Jayne Mansfield walked in, wearing a dress that could barely contain her breasts. Mansfield plopped down next to Sophia. She leaned in, bent low, and let her chest fall right into the face of the elegant Italian woman, who was maintaining her dignified image in the heart of the cinematic capital. The entire party froze for 3 seconds. Then, it erupted in laughter. No one shielded her. No one intervened. On the contrary, the cameras rolled. The lenses zoomed in. They took shot after shot of the moment when Sophia stared at Mansfield's chest. The next day, American newspapers were full of headlines. Sophia Loren stunned by Mansfield's bust, the Italian beauty finally defeated. The battle of the breasts, who wins? Sophia wasn't asked. She wasn't allowed to speak. She became the backdrop for a cheap stunt. Years later, when asked about the infamous photo, Sophia coldly replied, "I looked not because I was interested, but because I was shocked. I was disgusted. And because I feared, the whole table would be covered in whatever was spilling out of her dress." Not a word of apology. Not a single explanation. Jayne Mansfield got what she wanted, trampling on someone else's honor to stand out. Sophia Loren never mentioned her name at any ceremony. Never referred to her in her memoirs. Never wrote a word about her. But everyone knew, it was the one public humiliation she could never forget. Jayne Mansfield degraded her before the world, but it was her own husband who, in silence, destroyed her in a far more intimate way. Carlo Ponti, the wonderful man who was like a father, yet choked me in silence. Sophia Loren once referred to Carlo Ponti, her husband, the one who was like a mentor to her career, as a warm heart in a barren world. But he was also the one who slowly made her lose herself. Ponti didn't betray her openly. He didn't mock her. But in silence, he gradually withdrew his love with indifferent glances, placing her in the role of legacy, rather than a woman to be loved. Sophia wrote in her memoirs, "I lived with a man, but every day, I saw myself fading away." She vanished from the screen. Vanished from the stage. Vanished from her own life, because she loved a man who no longer had the desire to love her back. Ponti, the renowned producer, the man who helped her win an Oscar, was the one who suffocated Sophia's heart with overwhelming silence. If psychological blows can destroy a life, then the last person, the one Sophia once gave her gold, her heart, would deliver a strike that shattered her soul entirely. The last person Sophia Loren ever truly trusted was her son, Edoardo Ponti, the child she had sacrificed her youth to protect. her bloodline she had worked so hard to preserve. Yet it was Eduardo, the director, the heir to the legacy, who would be the one to push her into the wings of life. Through his love for cinema, Sophia once hoped, "If you make films, I want to live again, on the screen, under your direction." But no. Eduardo chose to write silent roles, images of silence, sorrows without words, turning Sophia Loren into nothing more than a shadow of nostalgia, rather than a living flame that I and the life ahead. 2020, her final film, directed by her son, Sophia Loren portrayed a woman on the brink of death, lonely, forgotten. When a reporter asked, "Why have you allowed your mother to end her career playing a dying woman?" Eduardo responded, "Because it's the reality. And my mother isn't afraid of reality." Sophia didn't argue. She didn't complain. But people saw it. From that point on, she withdrew from all stages, no longer accepting interviews, no longer standing in the spotlight. It was as if that final role was the obituary of the legend itself. She once said, "I don't blame my son. But while I'm still alive, he has written the role of farewell for me." What more is there for him to say afterward? Honor insulted, body violated, heart crushed. But it was the indifference from her own flesh and blood, that final strike, which drained all the tears from Sophia Loren. A woman, humiliated by a fellow countrywoman, groped by a global legend, turned into a laughingstock in front of the public, her spirit suffocated by the husband she once adored, and finally, having her own son write her farewell while she was still alive. 5 wounds, no blood. But they seeped right into the soul. Sophia Loren didn't speak to be pitied. She remained silent, because she was strong enough not to need to scream. But if anyone had seen her eyes in those final photos, they would understand, a legend isn't broken by scandals, but by the indifference of those closest to her. Who do you think hurt Sophia Loren the most among them? Leave a comment, because silence is also a crime. And she deserves to speak out. Yes, this is not madness, this is Cassandra Peterson, a strange and haunting phenomenon. Before the world knew her as Elvira, Queen of the Night and a symbol of confidence and power, Peterson lived through dark chapters of her life that few expected. Behind the glamorous makeup and seductive deep voice was a shocking secret, a serious accident that almost took her life at the age of 20, and a lesbian relationship that lasted nearly 2 decades that she kept as a silent secret. In this video, we will take you into the real world behind the icon, where the spotlight cannot shine. And join me in the go-go dance, and prepare for the next great and mysterious things. If you are fascinated by this story, hit like, subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss the untold truths about Hollywood icons. Born on September 17, 1951 in the small town of Manhattan, Kansas, where everything was too normal to accommodate a strange soul like her, Cassandra Peterson grew up like a bat among pigeons. With her fiery red hair and strange hobby of being fascinated by blood, ghosts, and darkness, she soon became the weird girl who was whispered about around the schoolyard. Her passion for horror ignited when Cassandra was only 8 years old, after her cousin secretly took her to see House on Haunted Hill. In the darkness of the theater, with Vincent Price creeping on the screen, she found not only fear but also the purest joy. From then on, instead of playing with dolls, she made friends with Dracula, Frankenstein, and ghosts on the silver screen. But that small town was not tolerant of eccentric souls. Cassandra had to endure ridicule, bullying, and isolation. While other children skipped rope in the sun, she buried herself in horror magazines and dreams of cursed castles. It was that difference that forged the legendary Queen of the Night we know today, not in spite of it, but because of it. At 17, Cassandra Peterson didn't leave Kansas, she ran away from it like a vampire from the dawn. Destination, Las Vegas, a paradise of neon lights, glittering sequins, and wandering souls seeking glory in the darkness. Enchanted by Viva Las Vegas and the image of Elvis Presley as a rock god in a silver jumpsuit, Cassandra plunged into the world of drag queens like a fish to blood. Amid towering wigs, eyeliner that reached to hell, and stages that sparkled with sweat and glitter, she found herself, both eccentric and strangely alluring. But Vegas was no fairyland. When she wasn't performing, she swayed on nightclub stages like a dark goddess in the form of a go-go dancer, each tip a survival leap in the red desert. And then, fate in the shape of Elvis appeared. On a moonlit night in a hotel suite where champagne flowed like vampire blood, it was the king himself who whispered in her ear, "Baby, Vegas is not for the likes of you. Go. The show is on." Elvis didn't just give her advice, he gave her a prophecy. And Cassandra, with her heart beating to the beat of the bass and her eyeliner still unwashed, began her journey to becoming an immortal icon, not a princess, but the queen of the night. Cassandra's acting debut was less a Hollywood dream than a glitter-and-smoke nightmare. Her first role? A blink, you probably didn't even see it, in Diamonds Are Forever, a James Bond film. Even though it was a small supporting role like a fake nail, it was her first step in crawling out of the shadows and into the light, and back into the shadows in her own unique way. Then, like a restless ghost, Cassandra drifted to Italy. There, she became a misfit rocker, screaming in two eccentric bands called I Latin 80 and the Snails, yes, Snails, because everyone needs a slow, slimy image. Then, boom! She was picked by Federico Fellini for a role in Roma. Things began to take a turn for the surrealist cinematic dream, with streets full of illusions and people wearing hats made of chandeliers. But make no mistake, the light didn't last forever. After leaving Italy, Cassandra returned to the States and continued to survive in a bizarre way, working at the Playboy Club in Miami, where long-eared bunnies and cocktails were always in hand. She signed with Hugh Hefner's modeling agency and performed musical comedy as a haunted house clown. Then came the darkest part, a nude photo shoot that she thought was just art, but ended up appearing in porn magazines without her permission. Painful, humiliating, but for a queen of the night, it was just another beautiful scar in her collection of resilience. In 1979, Cassandra Peterson joined the Groundlings, a place where crazy, weird, and comedic geniuses gathered to laugh at stereotypes. And it was in that den that a strange, sexy, and punchline-inducing creature was born, Elvira. Initially a joke in drama class, Elvira quickly became a ghostly figure, with a dress slit nearly to the ceiling, hair that spiked like electricity, and eyes as sharp as acrylic nails. But don't let her looks fool you. Hidden beneath her thick layers of makeup was a killer sense of humor, specializing in turning fear into bitter laughter. Then fate knocked, in 1981 to be exact, when LA television station KHJ needed a wild daughter of Vampira to host a late-night horror show. Cassandra, with eyeliner as thick as a bat's wing, and an air of being part porn star, part theater witch, showed up to the audition like a cold wind blowing through a graveyard. She blew away all the other contenders. With the help of her best friend Robert Redding, who was part makeup artist, part iconographer, Elvira was portrayed as a mix of kabuki, the Ronettes, and a Halloween nightmare. And so, on September 26, 1981, Hello Darlings played for the first time, and the world shuddered with delight. Who would have thought that a busty witch would become a phenomenon? Elvira not only dominated television, she also invaded every corner of popular culture, from The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson to every Halloween costume shelf. She wasn't just an icon, she was a genre shifter. Don't let the black lipstick and razor-sharp smile fool you. Elvira's success didn't come on a broomstick strewn with roses. From the moment she emerged from her television grave, Elvira was dragged into a battle, truly witch war. An actress who played Vampira, the dark ancestor of all queens of the night, was not very happy to see Cassandra looming over her with her low-cut dress and goofy demeanor. She withdrew from the project, leaving a void, and a pile of legal troubles that reeked of the undead. To avoid the courtroom, the character Elvira was forced to revive, change her name, edit her image, and hide her inspiration like a skeleton in a closet. Then came the big lawsuit. "You stole me," Vampira screamed, in legal style, of course. But no, the court declared, Elvira was her own weird original. Cassandra won the case, and Elvira continued to crawl on screen, lipstick intact. And yet, the next battle came from the people in the house. The producers, who had obviously never seen a black dress with a slit to the navel, demanded that Cassandra clean up the costume. But Elvira was no pushover. She clawed back with her sharp claws, declaring, "No cleavage, no Elvira." And like black magic, when the audience went crazy over this eerie image, the protests immediately turned to dust, zombie dust, of course. After decades of hiding behind mascara thicker than London fog and black dresses with slits that reach as high as the underworld, Cassandra Peterson, yes, the girl behind Elvira, finally takes off her mask. And no, not on Halloween, but in the shocking memoir Yours Cruelly, Elvira, Memoirs of the Mistress of the Dark, 2021. In it, Cassandra not only recounts her fun first, blood second career, but also literally peels back her own scars. As a child, she suffered severe burns to 35% of her body, a tragedy that turned her into the weirdest person in her class, but also nurtured the unyielding spirit and eerie beauty of the Queen of the Dark. You see, beauty comes from pain, and a little highlighter in the right place. But what made the world gasp, and not because of the ghost, was the revelation of a nearly 20-year lesbian relationship with Teresa T. Weirson, a mysterious woman Cassandra met at a sweaty and unexpectedly romantic gym. This relationship was kept secret like a locked grimoire, for fear of breaking the illusion of a sexy, straight Elvira. When she dared to come out, 11,000 people walked out, perhaps unable to bear the image of Elvira loving a woman instead of loving themselves. But as every powerful witch knows, burn one bridge, you fly on a broomstick to another. More than 60,000 new fans came, clapping loudly and screaming, "Live, sister!" And for the first time in years of incarnation, Cassandra was not Elvira, but truly alive. No masks, no magic, just the truth, and a little dark sparkle. Thank you, brave souls, for joining me in the mysterious mists of the past. If this story has you shuddering with delight, or at least making your eyeliner quiver, then don't hesitate to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell like you've just summoned a blood moon ritual. I promise to be back, with more dark secrets, deep black dresses, and killer smiles.